I'm Karen Oyakami.
And I'm Pat Harris, American Black Beauty Doll Association. We're here in the city of Oakland, downtown, in front of the African American Museum and Library, historical library, to welcome you to our 2020 Festival of Black Dolls Show and Sale virtual event. We want to thank you for taking the time to visit our website and watch our vendors and the talented collectors for the 2020 virtual event. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Currently, you're standing outside of the African American Museum and Library. We are located in downtown Oakland at 659 14th Street in the city of Oakland. Our building is an Andrew Carnegie building. It was built in 1902 with funds from Andrew Carnegie. This here is Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie was a philanthropist who gave money for constructions of public libraries throughout the United States. And luckily, our building is one of those buildings that was actually financed through our Andrew Carnegie. He gave $50,000 to actually build the building that we are housed in today. The building opened as the Oakland Public Library's main library in 1902. The main library was housed upstairs on the second floor, where our museum gallery is now. This building has been through 2 earthquakes. 4 years after opening in 1906, the Great Quake shook the building. The building actually survived this earthquake. It continued to serve as the main library until the 1950s, when the main library moved to its current location. This location became the Charles Green Library, named after one of the first librarians in the city of Oakland. In the 1970s, the building actually closed as a branch library, and the city of Oakland took over the building, and it served as office buildings until 1989 on October 17th at 5:04 p.m. when the next Great Quake shook the building. That 6.9 earthquake caused substantial damage, leaving this building uninhabitable. For many years, there was a debate as to what would happen and what would be the future of this building. Scholars eventually got together and came up with the idea of housing the African American Museum and Library in this location. In order to do that, they had to find someone to come and rehabilitate this building. This building sustained a lot of damage during the 1989 earthquake. As we said, this building was built for $50,000. In order for this place to become safe and become the African American Museum and Library, an African American architect was found, and they came in and did all of the work. They restored it to its natural habitat to the tune of $11.2 million. So the building was built for $50,000. In order for us to come into this building and have it safe, earthquake safe, and retrofit it, $11.5 million. Today, the African American Museum and Library has 4 departments. You're looking at a picture of our first department here, which is our newest department. This is a seed lending library. So this department actually started out in our hallway in the card catalog. So we had a wooden box, one of the old school card catalogs that we used to search for the cards to search for books. That served as our actual seed lending library, until the idea to expand it by our museum project coordinator, Vita Silva. And this is now what our seed lending library looks like. So we have dozens and dozens of different seeds that people come in and they can check them out, take them home, create their own gardens. You're now in our archives department. The archives department is different from the reference library in that everything that you're going to see here is one of a kind. Everything is original. With our archives, we don't take copies of anything. We have over 160 collections here that document African American history. Some of those collections that we have here, I'll show you some pictures of in a moment. But we also have in those collections things such as the Black Panther newspapers. We have those. We have different entrepreneurs, African American educators, and people come from throughout the country to actually view those collections that we actually have here. Many of our collections have now been digitized, and our photos have been digitized. So we have over 160 collections. In those collections, we have over 70,000 photos. Many of those collections you can see online. You can go onto our online Archive of California page to do research there, or our Calisphere page, which houses many of our photos as well. This here is the East Bay Negro Historical Society. This was the storefront that was opened after the Fords and the Lasardames, who had began collecting papers, documents, and oral histories for many years and storing them in their storefronts, began to run out of space. Once they ran out of space, they decided to open this location up. Now, the East Bay Negro Historical Society, people could come in and look at some of the documents and papers and photos that they had been collecting for many, many, many years. Eventually, this location, after many people began to continue to want to contribute their collections and things to the East Bay Negro Historical Society, it actually outgrew this location. They eventually came to an agreement with the Golden Gate Library, and the East Bay Negro Historical Society moved into the Golden Gate Branch Library on San Pablo Avenue. Stayed there, and it changed its name as the times changed, and it became the African American Museum and Library at Oakland. More collections continued to come in, and interest grew, and eventually it outgrew that space, which is one of the reasons why we are now at the African American Museum and Library on 14th and Martin Luther King Jr. Way. These are some photos from our archival collection. The photos that you see here are from Henry Delton Williams' collection, who was a Motown designer, who's done designs for Diana Ross and the Supremes, along with Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. You also see the Black Panther Party, which we have the Black Panther newspapers here as well, and also Ida Jackson, the first African-American school teacher to teach in Oakland. The panels that you see here are from our museum mural called A Journey of Promise, done by Patricia Montgomery and Daniel Galvez. There's a total of 42 different stories on these panels. Talks about everything from slaves to the migration period, educators, politicians, and Oakland institutions. We are now in our museum gallery. The museum gallery is where we have both temporary and our permanent exhibition. Photos to my left are from exhibitions that have been curated here by our former curator. You'll see Revolutionary Grain, which was done for the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party, and also the Griots of Oakland, talking about youth and their stories of living here in Oakland. To the right, you will see Visions Towards Tomorrow. Talks about the history of African Americans in Oakland, beginning with the 1890s. The photos and things that you see there come from our archives department. Some of the highlights that you will see in our archives, from our archives, include artifacts. Some of the artifacts that we have up here include a Pullman Porter insignia that was found in the Cypress Freeway rubble. As you go along, you will also see we have touchscreen panels here that have different interviews on them. So there's snippets of full-length interviews from our archives department that our previous curator had done with different citizens here from the city of Oakland, talking about everything from migration till their everyday life.